So, I mean, for yourself, what within this complexity of projects, obviously you've been involved on numerous projects. What is this and why does this impact businesses?
Yeah, so a couple of interesting points you made there around. So first of all, the stat that you mentioned, the Gartner stat is like, it's Nick Hoydecker mentioned this was back about five years ago, I think it was, that the 60% failure rate was too conservative, and that he felt that it was more like 85%. And this is actually in the era of cloud, remember? So cloud was around, it was already a thing back in 2017. So it's like really key to understand that. And with it being, Gartner calling out, I think it's like a really interesting call out that they made at the time. And things haven't changed that much. So I think that number, 60 to 85%, is still quite a relevant and salient number. But in terms of complexity, you'll find that the size of a program or project may not reflect the complexity. So you can have small, complex programs, but you can have large programs that haven't got maybe as much complexity, or you can have large and complex programs as well. Mm-hmm. But in terms of the cross-cutting aspects that are really important for delivery of any analytics capability for a customer, one of the major things that typically results in a failed program is governance or the lack of. So governance in terms of making sure that all aspects of the project or program are correctly run with one objective in mind, which is the delivery of the program or delivery of the platform normally. And this can be things like ensuring that you've got a really well constructed program plan or project plan, down to like some smaller details like defining the job roles for people that are actually on the project and what they're going to do. So you'll typically find business analyst, data solution, enterprise architects sometimes who have got a vested interest in analytics projects. But it's really critical that people understand what their role is within a project or program, because otherwise it can be really critically bad when assumptions are being made in terms of where a particular person's role starts and ends. Mm-hmm. So that's really important. And I've seen programs which have been run like that, where assumptions are made around, well, I'll pick this up and you pick that up, but then it's not actually written down. So that can result in just assumptions, and then tasks don't actually get delivered because people think others are picking up that task. Yeah. So that's a really key thing. Another aspect is you've obviously got for major enterprise programs, you've got like vast amounts of information, data being processed. So it's really important to have solid platform level patterns that are really easily understood and communicable and recorded. And that can be that you can have it where basically programs change architecture mid-flight, and all the technical delivery people are brought on board. So it's really important to get that kind of like baseline. So I equate delivering an analytics program to like building a house. You need firm foundations, otherwise the house is going to collapse. And if you change the foundations a lot, then obviously the house is going to be at risk of falling over. So it's a very good analogy, actually, and one that I use a lot with senior stakeholders. So because it's very easily understood. Programs are like, you need an architect to build a house. You have, bricklayers, the coders, who actually are there to actually construct the more detailed elements of the house itself. So it's a very it's a key analogy, that one, and it demonstrates that without those foundations in place, things can get really dicey. And 3 to 5 years after you started the program, what you don't want to be doing is embarking on a replatforming or a rebuild. So it's like really critical that the complexity is managed and that everyone's brought on the journey of actually building out the platform.
Yeah, no, it's
So,
good
yeah.
analogy. Obviously, nobody wants a lopsided house, so
No, that Leaning Tower of Pisa, no, I
yeah.
mean, it's a miracle it's still standing, really, isn't it? But, and I've worked on programs that have been like that, but where we've had to pivot quickly to actually to get the delivery over the line. But I've one story is that there was a consulting project I was working on, and there was just assumptions made around what business analysts were doing, what data architects were doing, and there was a real blending of roles. And when the timelines compressed, that's where you feel the pain the most. Because when timelines compress, which can happen, everyone needs to know really what they're doing and how they are interacting with other workers. So it's it can be, if you're not careful, quite problematic.
Yeah, I bet. And then, yeah, I think obviously you made another good point. Obviously, the data governance 'cause I mean, even I think that's going to be a massive area now. I mean, we've seen it with our clients. They've started. I mean, we have getting like just roles solely focused on data governance now. When before, yeah, we weren't. Maybe it's incorporated into another role, but it's just obviously seen the strong focus on this area now. And like I said, we've seen that with many clients now. They're looking to build up on that space. Because it is going to, I think, yeah, like I say, it's going to be critical for businesses moving forward. So, I mean, with complexity of projects, obviously, I think another thing we tend to see is obviously a lot of businesses have different applications. And I guess the integrating that within the business is a challenge. So do you think that impacts businesses a lot?
I think so. A lot of it depends on the timelines, but what you'll find is, if you're going into, an existing mature corporation, for example, there'll be lots of different types of systems with, different types of data recorded, and what I would describe as different rhythms in terms of how the data is basically ingested and then kind of like disseminated across the enterprise. So you've got to be mindful of these kind of like patterns and variations in terms of how data flows across the enterprise. And because that will have a massive effect in terms of how you harness it and bring it into the data warehouse or lakehouse or whatever it is you want to build out. So it's really important to have those the understanding of exactly how data flows across an enterprise, because you're going to need to pull it all together and integrate it in a central data architecture model like Kimball Star Schema or Data Vault 2 is quite popular as well. So it's really important that you get an understanding of that, because it will basically define how how the system is constructed from a data architecture perspective. So yeah, that's a really good point actually. And one of the